The once great Robert De Niro gets absolutely silenced by Bill Maher after he gets asked this one question about Donald J. Trump.
It's Biden versus Trump. We want to live in a world that we want to live in and enjoy living in, or live in a nightmare. Vote for Trump and you'll get the nightmare. Vote for Biden.
Can you believe it? Bill Maher just asked Robert De Niro one simple question about Trump, and De Niro was left speechless. I've never seen someone so out of touch with the average American struggle to explain why Trump's still winning in the polls. It was epic.
We'll be back to normalcy.
Yeah. So
Robert De Niro is on Bill Maher's show, and things are getting heated. Maher, who isn't exactly a Trump fan, throws a curveball question at De Niro. Why is Trump winning in the polls despite all the negative press? Now, this is $1 million question, and it puts De Niro on the spot.
Trump winning. I mean, the New York Times poll this week came out, and maybe this will change it with the State of the Union address, but Trump was beating him rather soundly. It was quite a warning light, 48-43, also winning way more among women than he had before, winning outright Latino.
De Niro's reaction is almost painful to watch. He stammers and fumbles, clearly not prepared for such a straightforward yet crucial question. Instead of offering a well-thought-out answer, he defaults to the usual Hollywood script, calling Trump a monster and expressing disbelief that anyone could support him. It's almost as if De Niro can't fathom that regular people might have legitimate reasons for backing Trump.
That too.
I don't know. I just don't want to feel the way I did, and many of us don't, after the election in 2016, where we couldn't believe that it happened.
Here's the thing. De Niro's response shows just how out of touch he is with the average voter. He doesn't get why Trump has such strong support, especially from people who feel ignored or belittled by the elites. When Maher mentioned the poll numbers, with Trump leading Biden 49% to 43%, De Niro seemed to brush it off like it was a fluke. But those numbers tell a different story. They highlight a real and growing frustration among voters who feel left behind.
Anybody, I don't understand it. I guess they get behind that kind of logic. They want to fuck with people, screw them, because they're unhappy about something. He's such a mean, nasty, hateful person. I never pay a play.
Is this not the perfect case of projection? He's talking about Trump being a very nasty, evil person. Excuse me, Trump is actually looking out for us. He's actually speaking and doing things in our best interest. As opposed to you, where all you were doing is virtue signaling, saying, believe this, or else you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're this, you're that. No, this guy just believes he knows better than us. He knows better. We should all bow down to the almighty Robert De Niro because he said some lines in a movie. It seems every time he talks about Trump, all he does is insult us. He says we're not intelligent, we can't really think for ourselves. Trump tricked us somehow. No, this guy is absolutely clueless.
Major disconnect. Instead of engaging with the reasons why people might support Trump, like economic concerns, immigration policies, and a desire for stronger national security, De Niro just labels them as misguided or wrong. This kind of attitude only fuels the divide. It's like he's saying, if you support Trump, you're part of the problem, without even trying to understand the problem itself. And Maher, to his credit, didn't let De Niro off the hook. He pushed for a real answer, which just made De Niro look more flustered. The takeaway here is clear. When celebrities use their platforms to bash one side without understanding or acknowledging the concerns of that side, they end up alienating more people than they persuade. De Niro's performance on Maher's show is a perfect example of this. He came off not as a concerned citizen, but as an out-of-touch elite, completely missing the point of why so many Americans are drawn to Trump.
Nothing at all, nothing redeemable in him. And we have to, and whoever the people are who want to vote for him, and there look like intelligent people around there, for some reason, it can't be. It cannot be.
You've probably noticed how often celebrities use their platforms to voice their opinions on political matters. They have millions of followers, so it's no surprise they see an opportunity to influence public opinion. But does it really work the way they think it does?
He wins the election. You won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. They'll There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine.
Celebrities like Deniro often take strong stances on political issues. They use award shows, interviews, and social media to broadcast their views. Deniro, for instance, has never shied away from calling out Trump and his supporters, often using harsh and inflammatory language. The idea behind this is simple: leverage their fame to sway public opinion and encourage their fans to adopt similar views. But here's the catch. Just because someone is famous doesn't mean they're an expert on politics. Sure, they have a platform, but using it to lecture people about who to vote for can come off as arrogant and out of touch. Celebrities live in a different world, often insulated from the everyday struggles that most people face. When they speak out on political issues, it can feel like they're looking down on the very people they're trying to persuade.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power, and he still hasn't.
No.
He still hasn't admitted he lost the last election, and he advertises that he will go on. He says he's been cheated out of one.
So Trump has never conceded power, so let's just run with that narrative for a second. If Trump still had power, why would he allow all of these nonstop BS lawsuit cases against him to continue? I don't think that Robert De Niro is that stupid. I don't think any human being could be that stupid where they don't understand where we are coming from. I don't think he could be that ignorant. I think they must have some dirt on him. There must be something behind the scenes that we cannot see, because any logical human, I cannot see how they would have his mindset and his perspective on this entire thing. He must know where we're coming from. He can't be that stupid, right?
Getting tired of being told what to think by Hollywood elites. There's a growing resentment towards these out-of-touch figures who seem to believe that their fame gives them the authority to dictate political opinions. It's almost like they're saying, "I'm rich and famous, so you should listen to me," without considering that their lifestyles are worlds apart from the average voter. This backlash is evident in the reactions to De Niro's tirades against Trump. Instead of coming across as a concerned citizen, he often sounds condescending and dismissive. His constant name-calling and refusal to understand why people support Trump only fuel the resentment. It's like watching someone yell at a brick wall, expecting it to change its mind. The more he rants, the more people tune him out.
Psychopathic, malignant narcissist. He is a dangerous person.
So what does this mean for voter sentiment? When celebrities like De Niro go on these rants, they risk alienating potential voters rather than persuading them. Instead of engaging in meaningful dialogue, they create an us versus them mentality. Voters who might be on the fence see this and feel attacked rather than understood. It's not exactly a winning strategy. Think about it. If you're someone who's struggling with real issues like job security, healthcare, or rising living costs, hearing a multimillionaire actor lecture you on who to vote for can be pretty off-putting. It feels like your concerns are being dismissed as unimportant. This kind of approach doesn't win hearts and minds, it pushes people further away. According to the poll, Trump is leading Biden 49% to 43%. That's a solid 6-point lead. It's not just a fluke either. The poll also found that 55% of Americans look back on Trump's presidency as successful, compared to only 30% who feel the same about Biden's time in office. These numbers tell us that a significant chunk of the population prefers Trump's policies and leadership style over Biden's.
Never wanted to.
No.
You must have
He
crossed.
was an idiot. He was a clown. He was a clown in New York.
So, why is Trump still so popular? It boils down to a few key issues that resonate deeply with his supporters. Firstly, economic concerns are at the forefront. Many voters feel that Trump's economic policies were beneficial, particularly his focus on job creation and tax cuts. People remember the pre-pandemic economy fondly, with low unemployment rates and a strong stock market. Secondly, immigration policies play a big role. Trump's tough stance on illegal immigration and his efforts to secure the border appeal to voters who are concerned about national security and the economic impact of illegal immigration. Lastly, personal freedoms are a huge factor. Trump's base appreciates his defense of the Second Amendment, his stance against government overreach, and his commitment to individual liberties. These are issues that resonate deeply, especially in a political climate where many feel their freedoms are under threat.
That's the thing. They hate Donald Trump's personality so much, but they cannot debate anything about his policy. His policy is on point, and it's represented by the fact that America was never thriving as much as it was back in 2019, 2020. Before COVID hit, everything was clicking. So they know if they were to go policy versus policy against Donald Trump, they would get absolutely smoked. So they have to resort with these petty personal attacks.
Disconnect becomes glaringly obvious. He dismisses Trump supporters as misguided or worse, without acknowledging the legitimate reasons behind their support. Deniro's failure to engage with these issues shows a profound lack of understanding and respect for a large portion of the electorate. Instead of trying to understand why people support Trump, he resorts to name-calling and fear-mongering, which only widens the divide. Deniro's rhetoric is a prime example of how the left tends to stereotype and dismiss conservative voters. By labeling all Trump supporters as ignorant or malicious, he's engaging in the very behavior that the left claims to oppose. It's ironic that those who preach tolerance and inclusivity are often the first to resort to broad-brush stereotypes when it comes to conservative voters. The double standards here are glaring. The left frequently condemns stereotypes and demands that we look beyond surface-level judgments. Yet, when it comes to Trump supporters, those principles seem to fly out the window. Deniro and his ilk don't see the contradiction in condemning one form of prejudice while actively engaging in another. It's a clear case of do as I say, not as I do. This hypocrisy has real consequences for political discourse. When one side feels constantly attacked and belittled, meaningful engagement becomes almost impossible. The stereotyping and dismissive attitudes contribute to polarization, making it harder to find common ground and have productive conversations. Instead of fostering understanding, this approach deepens the divisions within society, pushing people further into their ideological corners.
It's just, he's a classic bully. If you had a schoolyard and he walked in and he had his bully friends around, the other people decide whether they want to oppose him or they want to let him just tell him what to do and own that, the schoolyard or the basketball.
Deniro doesn't hold back when it comes to expressing his fears about Trump. On Bill Maher's show, he painted a picture of a future under Trump that sounds straight out of a dystopian novel. He talked about a potential dictatorship, the erosion of democracy, and a society on the brink of collapse. According to Deniro, if Trump gets back into power, it's the end of the world as we know it. But let's be real here. These claims are over the top and serve more to scare people than to provide any real insight. Deniro's dramatic predictions are designed to evoke a strong emotional response, but they don't hold up under scrutiny. This kind of fear-mongering is all about creating a sense of panic and urgency without grounding it in reality. Now, let's compare Deniro's apocalyptic vision with the actual impact of Trump's presidency on media and freedom. During Trump's time in office, there were plenty of heated debates and controversies, but let's look at the facts. Did the media get shut down? No. Did we see the kind of totalitarian crackdown that Deniro fears? Absolutely not. In fact, the media was as vocal and critical as ever, freely expressing dissent and holding the administration accountable.
He became president, and now we're watching him, 10 blocks from where we are right now, sitting in a courtroom as a criminal defendant. What do you think about that?
I think of how absurd it is.
Sure, Trump had his battles with the press and often called out what he perceived as biased reporting, but the fundamental freedoms that define a democratic society remained intact. Comparing Trump's presidency to a dictatorship is not only inaccurate, but also undermines the experiences of those who have lived under actual authoritarian regimes. So, how effective are these scare tactics anyway? The problem with fear-mongering is that it clouds rational decision-making. When people are bombarded with terrifying predictions, they're more likely to react based on fear rather than thoughtful consideration. This kind of emotional manipulation can push people to make choices that aren't necessarily in their best interest or based on factual information. Fear-mongering also harms democratic engagement. It creates an environment where voters are driven by panic and hysteria rather than informed debate and discussion. This leads to a more polarized and less productive political landscape. Instead of engaging with the real issues at hand, people are caught up in a cycle of fear and reaction. Moreover, when high-profile figures like Deniro use their platforms to spread these kinds of fears, it only deepens the divide. Those who already distrust Hollywood elites and their political messages are likely to become even more entrenched in their views. It's counterproductive and only serves to push people further apart.
I just find it so funny how they always call Trump a dictator and Hitler, this and that, when in reality, Joe Biden has acted more so like that than any president in United States history, for the sheer fact that he was going after his number one political opponent. I'm sorry, this is what happens in communist regimes. We need to have an open discourse, open dialogue. We do not try and lock them up behind bars. It is beyond evident that they are terrified of Donald Trump.
Specific issues with someone's policies or actions and offering suggestions for improvement. It's grounded in facts and aims to foster understanding and solutions. Personal attacks, on the other hand, are just that, personal. They're about attacking someone's character or motives without addressing the actual issues at hand.
It's the least important in many ways, and yet it's the one that could be tried and finished in well enough time for people to just take that in.
Take Robert De Niro, for example. His rants about Trump are full of personal insults, calling him a monster and a clown. These kinds of attacks don't contribute anything valuable to the conversation. They don't help us understand why some people support Trump or what could be done differently. Instead, they just create more division and hostility. What we need is more of the former, well-founded critiques that help us see the bigger picture and work towards common goals. Enter Bill Maher. Love him or hate him, you've got to admit he knows how to stir the pot. On his show, he often tries to push past the superficial name-calling and get to the heart of the matter. When he challenged De Niro with that critical question about why Trump is winning in the polls, he was doing something important. He was trying to introduce a more balanced discussion. Maher's question wasn't about defending Trump. It was about understanding the real reasons behind his popularity. By doing this, he was encouraging viewers, and De Niro, to think beyond their own biases and engage with the actual issues. This is the kind of approach we need more of. Instead of shutting down conversations with insults, we should be opening them up with challenging questions and genuine curiosity. So where do we go from here? The path forward involves advocating for respectful and informed political discourse. This means engaging with people we disagree with in a way that's grounded in respect and a desire to understand their perspective. It's about listening as much as it is about talking. When we engage in respectful dialogue, we create opportunities for learning and growth. We can find common ground on issues that matter and work together towards solutions. It doesn't mean we'll always agree, but
back when the founding fathers were creating this nation, they were having fierce discussions back and forth, and they did not result in petty name-calling. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, for example, had fierce debates back and forth because they disagreed 100% on politics, but they still respected the other person's opinion. Nowadays, it's getting harder and harder to do that. If you post something on Facebook that's pro-Trump or anti-Trump, I can almost guarantee you're going to receive hate. Because it's so much easier to spew a negative hate comment online than it is to say it in person. Robert De Niro is the embodiment of an out-of-touch liberal Hollywood elite who doesn't know what life is truly like for an average American. Robert De Niro plays the tough guy in the movies. However, he hates Donald Trump so much because Donald Trump is the tough guy in real life. They tried shooting this man. He gets up, pumps his fist. Donald Trump is the real deal. Robert De Niro is nothing but a phony. Robert De Niro is just low intellect because he has to resort to name calling and raising his voice to try and say his perspective. When in reality, if he had a debate with Trump, that would be a landslide because he would have nothing to say. He doesn't know any policies or politics, anything. He doesn't. He just resorts to name calling, and it's so clear. Just look at the man's face. He needs to just retire, sit back, spend time with his family because this ain't the look, Robert. You have fallen off a cliff. Everyone used to love and respect this guy because they loved his movies. But But nowadays, he's nothing but a shell of himself. He's a joke. But yeah, I want to know, why do you think Robert De Niro is so hell-bent on destroying Donald Trump? Is it because he actually hates him, or is it because somebody has dirt on him and somebody is forcing him to use his voice to be negative towards Trump? Let me know your thoughts, perspectives on this. And if there's any actors in Hollywood who you do respect and they stand up for what's right, let me know. I'd love to hear that. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.